Hey guys, I am in Bangkok, Thailand right now, and I thought I would do this YouTube video on the Mind Palace memory training, how to memorize while walking through the streets of Bangkok, because I think it's an interesting backdrop for you to see. So here's the question. It's about the Mind Palace. If you don't know what the Mind Palace is, click the link below. It is the best memory training system out there, in my opinion. Click the link below if you don't know what the Mind Palace is, and watch that video first and then come back to it. Come back to this. If you do know what the Mind Palace is, here's the question. The question is can you reuse your Mind Palace over and over again for information? The answer to that question is yes and no. First of all, let me answer yes. Why can you reuse the Mind Palace over and over again? Here's the analogy. When construction workers build concrete, they put wooden forms down, and then they pour the concrete into those wooden forms. They'll let it set for a period of time, and then once the concrete hardens, they take the forms away, the wooden forms away, and the concrete is standing there. The Mind Palace is the same way. You have a poem you want to memorize, or history facts, or science facts, or business information. You pour it into the Mind Palace, and then you review it today, you review it tomorrow, you review it the next day. And after you have reviewed it enough times, it just becomes knowledge, and you can remember it without even thinking about your Mind Palace. In other words, the knowledge has hardened. So you take the Mind Palace away and you just know it. If you memorize the presidents of the United States and you review it, and you review it, and review it with your Mind Palace, eventually you'll just be able to say them without even thinking about your Mind Palace. And at that point, it becomes knowledge, and your Mind Palace is then freed up to use for other things. So of course you can continue to reuse your Mind Palace over and over again. Let me give you another way you can reuse your mind. By the way, I reuse my Mind Palace over and over and over and over and over all the time. You do not want to be creating new Mind Palaces every time you memorize something. That would be insane. That would be way too much work. You do not want to do that. So let me give you another example of how I reuse my Mind Palace over and over again. Let's say today I want to memorize a poem, and then tomorrow I want to memorize business information, and then the next day I want to memorize something I learned at a seminar. 3 different topics. I could use the Mind Palace on 3 consecutive days, 3 different topics, and not confuse the data because the information is so different. In other words, if I memorize the President of the United States today in a business speech tomorrow, I'm not going to be giving my business speech using my Mind Palace and accidentally start talking about George Washington. It's just not going to happen. So, yes, you can use the Mind Palace over and over again. Number 1, as long as the information is different, you will not confuse it. Number 2, once you review information so many times, it becomes knowledge in your brain and it hardens, and then your Mind Palace is freed up to use for other stuff. But let me give you an example of why you could not reuse your Mind Palace. Let's say you have 1,000 points of information to memorize and you only have 500 locations in your Mind Palace. Under this scenario, you might think, well, I'll put the first 500 on the first 500 files, and then I'll just go back and I'll layer it over it. I don't think you should do that because the information is so similar, you're going to confuse the data. Maybe you're memorizing a poem, and it's a 20-line poem, and you put the first 10 lines on your first 10 pieces of furniture, and then the next 10 lines you go back and you layer it over it. Again, it's so similar, you're going to confuse the data. When I memorized everyone who died in Afghanistan in the order of their death, I had to use 2,300 different pieces of furniture, because if I had tried to put 1,000 on the first 1,000 on my furniture and then go back and overlap the next 1,000, I would have confused the material. So here's the answer to your Mind Palace question. Can you reuse your Mind Palace? Number 1, yes, of course you can. I do it all the time. As long as the information is different, you will have no problems, even if it's on consecutive days. Number 2, of course you can, because once you review the knowledge enough, it becomes knowledge, it hardens in your brain, and your Mind Palace is freed up to use other stuff. The only situation where you cannot reuse your Mind Palace is if the information is so similar to what you're currently memorizing, you're going to confuse the data. So I hope this video helped you. If it did help you, please give me a like, a thumbs up. I would really appreciate that. And if you could subscribe below, if you're not, I would also appreciate that. If If I haven't answered your questions, or if you have any other memory training questions, please comment below with your question and I will be happy to answer it for you. I hope you enjoyed the streets of Bangkok, and if you don't know what the Mind Palace is, check the link out in the comments below. Have a great day.